All right. So I heard from my mom yesterday, and asked me to come over today, and she had a little something for me, and she helped me out financially a little bit. Gave me so much stock money, which I, again, put some in the bank to help with my overdrafts this month, right? I kept some for myself, put gas in the car, ate lunch, right? Off the money, right? And have a little bit left, right? Right. That's what you're also taught to do with money if you have something, right? You put a little towards your bills, a little for yourself, a little for your daily needs, right? Like the car, the bills, right? The gas, right? And then you put some towards yourself, right? That's all you can do is whatever you got is what you got, right? If you got a little bit more credit on the cards, that ain't gonna last too long, right? Alright, so before I joined the Navy, like I told you before, though, I did what they required me to do, which was I was already working, right, at Rogerwood, right? I worked there for almost a year, right? Um, let's see. I also had a part-time job with Crispy Chick, right? And they wanted me to go to kind of a school to kind of learn stuff related to, high school, right? And to show I was willing to take classes, right? And stuff like that in the afternoon as well. I also kept up exercising at least 4 or 5 days a week too, but not as long, right? Maybe 30 minutes to whatever. And mainly, like most people, you're a weekend warrior before you join the military, right? Or you do things mainly on the weekend, right? I don't know. As far as working out, right? Because you're kind of busy, right? Right. So what they do is they would schedule each thing, like whatever. My main job was Roger Wood, so I worked from 7 to 4, right? Which is 9 hours actually, right? So an hour is for lunch, right? Now some you work to 4:30, some even 5, right? Now when you do that, right, like you can work 10 hours days, right? 8 hour days or 12-hour days even, right? The difference is you work a shorter amount of days. Like if you work 10-hour days, you only work 40 days. 4 days, 4 days, right? And then you got 3 days off, right? But the thing is, it's a harder and longer job period, right? I know, right. Now, Moses, like I told you, talks of two ways a male can deal with his sexuality, right? And this is obviously what he's talking about, right? By how he describes what you can do to spill your seed, right? He's not graphic enough to describe the actual act you would have to do if you were alone, by the way. He don't say how, per se. But he says if you're alone and you're a male and you spill your seed on your garment or skin, whatever that may mean, right? Right, which might can happen if you're doing something manually or rubbing against something with your body, right? With it between your body and the object you're rubbing against, right? Say a bed or a mattress or whatever you have on the ground, right? But the thing is, you're rubbing it against something that it might get on, right? When it comes out, right? Now, when it comes out, it's going to get on the skin or garment of whatever you're doing it with, right? And again, right, if you do this activity, you're to wash yourself after. You're unclean to evening, right? And this is pre-Jesus, right? Now, Jesus never said not to follow the law, did he? No. Nor did Jesus say the law was evil, right? But what is evil is how you want to punish people for breaking the law. You want to condemn them and not realize people make mistakes, right? Forgiveness is better than condemnation, right? Because then you're trying to make the person feel bad about something they did wrong, right? Now, if they don't know it's wrong to begin with, kind of like with the new movie with Ben Affleck this weekend and Matt Damon, right? And again, some lady who read it with them too, from the female perspective, right? And again, I don't know her either, right? Right. But again, the point is, a woman is left at her home while her husband is in Paris doing business, and she's left alone. Mm-hmm. Well, while there, a male and his friend come by, and she kind of knows one of the men, and the man says he threw his horseshoe or something, right? And needed assistance, right? And she was, unsure of whether to let him in or not, but he persisted, kind of like, certain stories you read in the Bible, and she let him in, and as a result, the second male who was interested in her barged in with him, and chased her through her castle, had sex with her, but without her consent. Right? Now, even the Bible distinguishes rape from consensual sex. I know that. Yeah. Now, I also read an odd story about, again, several odd stories in the Bible, but how they dealt with that in biblical times, and also, of a couple rapes occurring. One was of a girl who was the sister and daughter of Jacob, and she was going to this town, right, and this guy named Shechem liked her. Mm-hmm. They had sex, it sounds like, consensually, right? But, and then the male wanted to marry her, and as a result, the brother said he had to circumcise himself and all the males up to a certain age, right? And they agreed to the terms, did so, but then they slew them when they were healing from the procedure, right? Well, the procedure is some men are born with, well, all men actually, with what's called a foreskin, right? The foreskin is like a covering for the penis, right? It extends over the tip of the penis, right? And again, it's to be the opposite of a vagina, right? Well, most men circumcise that part of the body, right? And if you're a certain age, or 13 and older, right, it can hurt when you do it, right? Well, when this started, the Arctic is a fair, right, with a man named Abraham, right, and maybe other people were doing it too, he was told to do it on a specific day, 8 days after the child was born, right? And there was a man who also was a king of Israel, and he had this woman seduce him, right? And he sent for her, and they lay together, and a child came about. Mm-hmm. Well, mysteriously, this child died 7 days later. Mm-hmm. Well, the man said it was because of Uriah, through a prophet called Nathan, that the child would die. Mm-hmm. But again, right, why would a child die just because someone said it was of the Lord, right? Well, there was a little thing you would do if a woman was untrue to you, right? Or another man. Mm-hmm. You would take the dust of the temple, put it in water, and the woman would drink the water for a day. Then you would observe the woman, and if her belly swelled up or something, she was unfaithful. Now, the reason for this is once a woman has sex with a man, right, she's no longer a virgin. Right? And this was considered a big deal back then, to only be with a woman that was not sexually active, right, with other men, right? No matter how long it was, she didn't have sex with the man too, right? Like, say, for months, weeks, or years, right? As long as they had sex periodically, that was between them if they were legally married, right? Well, like in the story with Matt and Ben's characters, right? Versus the woman's character. And even the mother seemed kind of harsh towards the woman and was told not to leave her alone, but left her alone anyway, right? And what did she do, right? And anyway, so the purpose is, though, David's child died 7 days later, mysteriously, after being discovered that he lay with a man named Uriah's wife. But that's also weird because it's the only child to die that way. Why would it die that way? Well, only if you try to multiply the test, right? Of an unfaithful woman or a jealous husband is what it's called. The husband's being jealous because he thinks the wife's cheating on him, right? Well, we know David was with another man's wife, right? And this is because the woman was bathing naked where David could see her. And obviously David sent for her, right? They had relations, right? And again, I guess David couldn't even tell if she was a virgin or not herself. So since her husband had just went to war and she was not a virgin per se, he may have questioned the paternity of the child. Well, if he did the test for 7 days, right, when it only talks about doing it for 1 day, right, he could have tempted the Lord and killed his own son, or killed the child that might also could have been the man Uriah's child, right? Now, the thing is, there was a little fight going on when this occurred, right? A little battle that men often have in building a kingdom for themselves, and David was one of the kings of the commonwealth known as Israel, whatever you want to call it, right? And he was one of their kings, right? So as he's doing these things, right, a woman seduces him, has sex with him, and also gets pregnant by him. But he also is told by the prophet Nathan that because of these things, right, even David himself would know it looks bad, right? The child would die 7 days later if it was his son or not, right? Now, I don't know from the story itself how long all this happened, right? We don't know how long the men were at war. We don't know how quickly David and Bathsheba met after they went to war, right? There are certain details that don't explain the story well enough, right, for it to be realistic. Anyway. But it does sound messed up either way for David or the man, right? And the wife. But the wife is the one actually seducing King David there, right? So she's got to be told by someone she knows to do so, right? Usually women don't do something like that in the country they were living in either, though no man, right, who knew David knew he was a kind of philanderer to begin with, right? So this is things that happened to him. One of the things is he married 2 women. One of the women was a woman named Abigail, and she was married to another man, right? Though that man died for some weird reason, because Abigail helped out David and his men, right? And gave them food or something, right? Kind of a weird story, too. So anyway, like I said, this is just things I've read about and heard about similarly in the Bible, and then they find this story in France around the 13 to 1400s, right? And again, it sounds similar, don't it? And then I had my own dating problems with my ex-girlfriends, especially one Sheena Johnson and things like that. Well, like I said, I can't change your name in an autobiography. I'm telling my side of the story, and see, unfortunately, you dated me long enough for me to question what was going on, right? And with or without your permission, I'm a real person too. So, like most tales, I felt like you were accusing me of doing something you didn't want to do. So I'm explaining my position, right? Why I did what I did, right? And what liberties we took with each other that we both took that would confuse either one of us whether we went out to church, to a similar church or not, right? Or what I thought was similar, right? Now, the problem with my church and your church is my church was filled with hypocrites. I don't know about your church, but my church was, right? The pastor was double dealing, right? He was doing one thing in the day and another thing at night, right? One that got so bad, he got put on 2020. 19 counts of sexual activity with a child were reported against him, right? And he got put in jail for all that, right? Because he was talking about two grown men while I was going out there, that it would be okay for them to stimulate each other with each other to climax, or what I was talking about earlier, where your seat of copulation comes out on each other's hands, I guess, right? Now, legally, I can't say you can or can't do that by grace, right? But religiously and morally, it would be a little bit homosexual, right? Not as bad as actual sex with the same person, which is called sodomy, right? Where two men have sex with one another, which is another educational thing you might not have heard of. Right? When two men have sex with a different hole than the woman has, right? It's called sodomy because both the man and the woman have the same hole. But the woman has a top hole that's for the, in my opinion, penis to fit in, right? And the male and female both have a bottom hole to go to the bathroom with, right? Well, men who are with another man have to use only the bottom hole because that's all you got, right? So again, to explain it in simple terms, men who do that kind of sex is called sodomy, and it's also illegal in the military to do that too, right? Kind of sex. So again, I know all this going in, right? To the military too, and I also know, right, if a male on the ship is asking me if I feel that way and I tell him no, he's starting to sexually harass me as well. If I have to tell him no more than once, we have to fight over it, right? Physically, right? What he's wanting to do is use me to get me in trouble for being in the Navy with him, right? Because he's feeling things towards me he's not supposed to be feeling, right? But not because of me, but because of his stereotypes of people who feel this way. It's telling him I might feel the same way, so he's trying to ask me if I feel gay. So I tell him no 3 times, right? And then he wants to fight about it because he's also supposed to be the one training me, right? So he's not training me as well, so we get to a physical altercation. He pushes me through a tin wall, and I hit him in the temple, knock him off of me, right? And someone else breaks it up. And we get found out that we're fighting about this topic, right? I also then get put in another division, and the guy there won't train me, but he don't ask the same question, right? He just won't train me either, right? which still makes it hard for you to know what to do in that situation, right? Because no one asked. No one in the damn hospital once asked me what was going on the ship, right? Did you? No. Why was I acting that way? Why did I have sex with a female who I didn't legally marry first? Right? That's why. I don't know. I had learned that I could also have premarital sex with 5 women before I met her, right? Had sex with them too, right? And then she was the 6th woman I was with, right? And I was hoping she would be the last, but I was wrong there too, right? And again. One of the biggest problems with the scribes and Pharisees of Jesus' times is hypocrisy, right? It's still the problem today with the church, right? They're still teaching sarcasm for truth, right? And sarcasm is never a truth. It's a statement that's said to a person that should be obvious to them, right? When God asked Adam, have you ate of the tree which I commanded you not to eat thereof? He instead brought up the fact that the woman gave him to eat of the tree first, and then he ate, right? Okay, what does that have to do with you, right? I didn't tell her what I told you, and you would have to tell her what I told you at least. I don't know. And I told you not to eat of it. I didn't say nothing about her. Right? I just said, you don't do it, right? You won't like the results. You know good and evil if you do it, right? Basically, right? He called it the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, and don't eat of this tree's fruit, right? Which, if another human being, could also represent his genitalia too, right? Meaning don't have sex with him, right? He might do something that makes you good and evil with him, and then you will be like him. And a hypocrite knowing good and evil, right? So there we are. We're in a world where people are doing these things to each other hypocritically, good and evil. Now, he didn't say that the act itself was the problem. It's how you would perceive it after that would be the problem too, right? I'm not telling you that 2 gay men who love each other, different topic altogether, cannot be together either. But more the one-night stand gay person I'm kind of trying to address. The gay people who are in the closet who might even try to rape other men, right? And things of that nature, right? So those are the real problems here that makes it hypocritical. And that's what this being taught Adam. Hypocrisy, right? The knowledge of good and evil, to where Adam died, so did Eve, within 930 years of being with his being in that way. And by that duration of time, you figured he was in the 7th day of his creation, right? He was created on the 6th day, finished out the 6th day with his wife, and everything was fine, right? But within 70 years of the 7th day, something happened where this being got a hold of him, right? Taught him good and evil, right? Through sexual intercourse with his fruit of his body, right? Which would be his penis, right? Which he might also have used to seduce the woman, right? And the man himself, right? Feeding him both his female fruit and bottomless pit as well. Now, when the Bible talks of these things, it's not going to talk to them in language you would understand, even with spilling of your seed. It don't tell you how the seed gets out, right? Verbatim, but that it does get out. If it gets on your skin or garment when it gets out, right? Just wash and be unclean to evening, right? Which ain't a bad punishment for it, you know what I mean? Right. Not a big deal either, right? Right. So if Moses is not as severe on that particular thing, or sex with a woman, he's really hard on men who do this act with each other, right? And calls it an abomination and to even stone them, right? But so is the act of adultery with another woman where she's with another man, right? Both are considered, again, a crime against the marriage, right? And both are punished the same way, by stoning, right? Now, both are adulterous in that one, you're trying to be with the same sex or the opposite sex. Though a man can, in the Bible, have more than one wife, oddly enough, but not the woman. Though she can divorce and be with more than one man, like the woman at the well. She had 5 husbands, cause 4 of them, or all 5 of them, divorced her, and then she married other men, right? Which you would hear of today, even too, right? And then she was with another man who was not legally her husband, and just living with him in what we would call today sin, I guess, right? Though when she met Jesus, Jesus didn't seem to judge her for all that. He wasn't hypocritical towards her, right? He knew she was having marital problems, and part of that is to conceive a child. Like Rebecca, Rachel, and Sarah, she was having problems conceiving a child, right, with these men, right? So much so they divorced her, right? 5 of them, one she was just kind of shacking up with, right? But hypocrisy says, oh, she's sinning. She's a scornful woman. But the Bible says, and Jesus says, he dealt with her as if she was just as human as any other woman, even if he was legally married himself to another woman who also may have been with 7 other men, right? 7 brothers, according to the scribes and Sadducees, anyway, right? I think they were talking about her. Well, we know from the wedding at Canaan, though, there's a big deal about someone getting married there. Though the bridegroom is never identified, nor the bride. Now, the author is thinking by doing this, you'll know who he means. Well, who's the primary character in the author's story? Mary Magdalene and Jesus, right? They have a different kind of relationship than any other 2 characters in the Bible. In fact, she's the first one to see Jesus was not in the tomb the following day after the Sabbath, which is technically Saturday evening, right? Before dawn, right? So Saturday night is when the holiday is over, right? The Sabbath is over, right? Now, from 12 to 4, we've heard rumors that the disciples even stole the body, right? But the only thing they could do with it is burn it, right? If they stole it. But also explain why you can't find it as well, huh? Right? Damn. But that's hypocrisy too, right? The hypocrisy of the disciples, right? Their own hypocrisy at what John saw, who was the only disciple before the cross with the women, right? And he said so. And when he wrote the book of Revelation, so he said something different about the chest of Christ, right? Being mastois, not stethos, right? Well, that applies towards a woman's chest, not a man's, right? And that's all I can tell you about it, too. And men are ignoring it. So are women. So are women. And everybody's ignoring it and being hypocritical about it, right? Because, see, unless you can change form, which Jesus also did, right? There's no way for that to even be possible. Unless you're both in one body, right? And this could explain how Eve was taken out of Adam, too, right? And why she was born of his bone and flesh of his flesh, literally, right? Which is what Adam said of her, right? After she was taken out of him. That's why we assume one of the bones was the rib from his side, right? But that would also mean maybe Adam had 13 ribs and not 12. Mm-hmm. The reason for that is he had two internal organs, his testicles and the fallopian tubes and fallopian of a woman, right? And a womb, maybe, right? Too, right? And the penis was on top of the vagina, right? And the female parts would be behind and above the male parts, so they would also encircle the male parts, right? As Jeremiah said, behold, a woman shall encircle a man, right? Well, that would explain it. If you're a true hermaphrodite, you won't know what I'm talking about. If you're one. If you're not one, you won't. Mm-hmm. You don't have a clue, right? Especially males and females, right? And to me, they're the third gender that's here but not supposed to be here, but here by the same grace of God that allowed us all to be hypocritical and make mistakes, right? But still knowing we can repent at any day, time, or point in our current situation, right? But it's also waiting for us all to, right? And see, the thing is, either we're going to do it all at once towards the very end, or we're going to be punished, right? For all the sins we committed, right? That's the problem, right? Now, all God wants you to do is stop being hypocritical and start trying to do the right things, right? Like, again, today when I was at the restaurant, I ate within 30 minutes of being in the restaurant, right? It usually takes me longer to eat, right? Why? But not this time. No, this time. I know. I know. That's all I can tell you, and that's bye-bye.